So that's how I feel about Ayn Rand. This is why, I don't think running off and reading everything in super detail is going to be an answer. Now, I'll still do it. People give me these things, but if they're going to say, read this whole book, you can't possibly read an essay on this and get an idea. Well, I don't know about that. I should be able to read an essay and get the idea. And, you think if I start from her very smallest ideas and she works me back up, I'll get to her conclusions. No, because we look at those ideas and she does things like rely on the special nature of human beings, which I don't believe, or she relies on the deducible, singular, objective nature of a material universe, which I believe and know is relativistic, and that we learn it entirely in terms of perceptions. And that's the final thing. She doesn't put it to perceptions enough. It's like this David Harriman guy. He takes people like me that take an epistemological approach that we have to tell about things in terms of their appearances, and he says, we're just talking about appearances, not about reality. Well, how does he get to reality? He doesn't use the appearances. He doesn't use he doesn't say, well, I don't know, let's do an experiment, and then whatever appears to be the case from the experiment, use it. I mean, the appearances are how we're getting to reality. If you discount appearances as though it's something just separate from reality, as though things appear however they want, I don't know where you're coming from. If you're honest, things do not appear how they want. They appear how they want. And people want to say, no, they appear how they are. Well, no, we just see a small part of it. So yes, they appear how they are, but it's not a complete picture. And so you have to keep looking. It appears that the sun goes around the earth. Turns out we are going around the sun. Both of those were appearances, and this is why we keep an open mind and we don't get objective, because we need to keep collecting appearances in order to keep improving our model of how we think things are, or put more accurately, maybe accurately enough, our approximations of how it may be are supposed to be accurate enough to get something done, okay? Our approximations of whether we're going around the sun or it's going around us, this is all supposed to create models of gravitation and the mathematics such that we can send a spaceship to the moon. And if we can, then it was good enough, but it still wasn't final. It wasn't objective. It wasn't certain in the kind of sense that an Ayn Rand wants it to be. So this is why I reject Ayn Rand. She's taking a very different approach to philosophy from myself. And I can see that. I can see that from the scale of reading that I've done of Ayn Rand, which is not insignificant, but it's also not the level of reading that a true devotee of hers would read. Now I have philosophers I appreciate that I think you should read more of. But then again, I know I'm a devotee of them, and you could read some essays. You could hear some of their ideas from me and make a judgment of whether that kind of thing appeals to you before having to read every single word, of that piece. And I know you believe that way, because just take the quantum mechanics. You guys are not that well read in the quantum mechanics of the physicists, but you're taking the objectivist word for the characterization of these other philosophies. And that's fair to do, as long as you make sure you really look close enough to double check what you're being told, and that you really do think like an objectivist. Then yeah, maybe you are going to have to reject quantum mechanics. But you could read a lot more on quantum mechanics and find out for yourself, would it really change how you feel? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. And you have to be the judge of that. I can tell that Ayn Rand's approach to philosophy is anathema to my own approach, both at the social level, at the epistemological level, just up and down, and in terms of when she writes stuff. She's a romantic. She's writing things that seem true to her, and she's just going to believe in them, like that humans are special with their faculties of reasons in such a way that we can just make arbitrary distinctions, and that somehow humans can achieve this objective knowledge. And I'll say a final thing is, I really don't like philosophies or philosophers that say that knowledge comes from reason. Knowledge doesn't come from reason. Reason and logic take knowledge as input, and they give knowledge as output. Okay, so if Socrates is a dog and dogs are mortals, then Socrates is mortal. Okay, so the input to that is that Socrates is a dog. I have to feel Socrates is a dog. It has to already appear to me that Socrates is a dog. Logic doesn't tell me that. My eyes tell me that. That dogs are mortal. Logic doesn't tell me that. My experiences with dogs tell me that. So those are my input, okay? The knowledge comes from that. And the reason can compute that and come out with, well, hey, Socrates is going to be mortal. Turns out that I also believe Socrates is going to be mortal, whether I know it or not. Just by believing that Socrates is a dog and dogs are mortal, I believe that Socrates is mortal, whether I know or admit it or not. That's the purpose of logic. It's to dig into these input ideas and find out, well, what other knowledge is a result, is a consequence? What other things have to be true if these things I think are true? So it's always conditional. Knowledge is not really coming from the logic, because the logic is processing knowledge and turning it into other knowledge. Okay, that's a transformation of knowledge. So yeah, it expands our understanding of the knowledge because we start to see all the consequence. So it's a good tool for working on our knowledge, but you can't get away from the fact that at the beginning, there's what appears to be the case, that you have observed that Socrates is a dog, that you have observed that dogs are mortal. So I don't like the way Ayn is one of these, knowledge comes from reason. I'll just sit in a closed room and figure out reality because it comes from logic, and when I'm in a closed room, I have logic. No, you got to go out in the real world and look at what's going on.